My self-centered sister tried to ruin my life, and my family dismissed it like it was some kind of joke. Now, everyone's finally starting to see just how twisted she really is. Let me give you a bit of background. I'm the second youngest of 5 kids. My older siblings include 2 brothers and an older sister, who I'll call Brooke for this story. There's a 5-year age gap between us, so we never really had the close bond you'd expect sisters to share. Growing up, I was more of a nuisance to her than anything else. Anytime it was my turn to pick a family activity, like choosing the movie for our Friday night tradition, Brooke would throw a fit. She's had major control issues since she was a kid, probably around 9 years old. So yeah, you can already guess where this is going. Now, I'm 18, about to hit 19 soon, woohoo for adulthood, and Brooke just turned 24 earlier this year. Back in June, during a family beach day, her boyfriend, Ryan, proposed to her. He went all out with the cheesy giant white letters spelling "Marry Me" and rose petals scattered everywhere before we even got there. Of course, she said yes. My parents were thrilled, my older siblings joined in on the excitement, and my little sister, she's only 4, didn't have a clue what was going on. And then, the chaos started. Ever since that proposal, Brooke has gone full-on bridezilla. At my mom's insistence, she included me as a bridesmaid. So now I'm stuck dealing with her endless demands. Here's a taste of what we're dealing with so far. 1. Bride's rules for bridesmaids. Each bridesmaid is expected to pay for their own $300 blush pink dress, shoes, hair, and makeup. 2. Bachelorette madness. We have to attend all the pre-wedding events, including an $800 spa day, a weekend getaway to Toronto, staying at the Fairmont Hotel, which costs $1,000 just for the room. 3. Wedding prep. Even if it's just for her dress fittings, we're required to attend. Alterations, of course, are out of pocket, $300 for the dress plus an estimated $300 for adjustments. 4. Cake and venue tasting fees, we pay $25 per tasting session. 5. Reservation deposits, guests in the bridal party must pay $150 to secure their spots at the wedding. Oh, and about gifts? They have to either be cash, a check, or something from her registry. She's keeping a spreadsheet to track what everyone is gifting and says she'll return anything that doesn't match her theme. Mom chalks it all up to wedding stress, but let's be real, it's just Brooke being her usual controlling self. She's planning a December wedding at a ski resort, and it's all just so over the top. Here's where things get worse. 1. Beauty regimen. We're required to attend hair and skin appointments every 6 weeks to ensure we look flawless in photos. Yep, out of pocket. 2. Tattoos and hair color. Anyone with tattoos must cover them up. The dresses are designed to hide tattoos, but if yours show, tough luck, you'll have to deal with it. Brooke wants to be the only one flaunting her tattoos and edgy hairstyle, so we're expected to dye our hair natural colors or wear wigs, at our expense. 3. Size shaming. The dresses come in sizes 0 to 10. Anyone outside that range has to slim down. I'm a size 12, and Brooke has already started calling me fat. She even sent me a keto diet book through Amazon. For vendor communication, nobody can speak directly to the bride or groom. Everything goes through us, and we're supposed to just know what's okay without asking. The stress has gotten so bad that my mom is losing sleep over this, and I'm seriously rethinking my life choices. Some kind folks online suggested I seek therapy through my university and figure out a plan to move into campus housing early. I've already started taking steps, like removing my mom from my bank account and securing my birth certificate. Anyway, I'm thinking of showing this story to my parents to help them understand my perspective. If people are interested, I'll update with what happens next. Our family dynamic has never been normal, but lately, it's become painfully obvious just how broken it really is. While I was at work, I called my Aunt Karen, who also happens to be my godmother, for advice. She's always been the voice of reason in my life and thinks my mom has completely lost it. We had a long conversation, and she encouraged me to not only confront my parents about the wedding fiasco but also address the long-standing favoritism that's plagued our family since I was a kid. She's even on standby, ready to help if things go sideways. My shift ends in a few hours, and once I get home, I plan to pack a quick bag for Aunt Karen to grab before I sit down with my parents for this conversation. I need to be prepared for whatever might come next. The financial nightmare. It's easy for Brooke to throw around these insane wedding demands because her and Ryan's incomes make it possible for them to afford this fantasy. Ryan's pulling in over $120,000 a year working in tech, and Brooke makes $100,000 as an accountant. Meanwhile, I'm barely scraping by, trying to avoid piling up even more student loan debt, especially with the interest rate sitting at a ridiculous 26%. People have told me to stand my ground and let Brooke know I can't afford this, but she's completely dismissive. She told me it's my duty as her sister to save up for her big day. My parents, who are covering nearly $100,000 of the wedding costs, say they can't spare an extra $2,000 to cover my expenses as a bridesmaid. Yet, somehow, they expect me to manage this while heading off to college with a $17,000 tuition bill looming over me. What makes this even harder is that Brooke has 13 bridesmaids to match Ryan's fraternity brothers, because apparently, that's special and symbolic for them. If I back out, it'll mess up their precious symmetry, and she's made it clear that's not an option. Update: family meeting. It took over a week to finally sit down with my parents because my mom kept putting it off. She claimed she wasn't feeling well, went to bed early that night, and then forgot about the conversation while we were busy helping Brooke move in with Ryan. When we finally talked 2 days ago, I learned some shocking details that I'm still trying to process. Turns out, my dad didn't even know the full story. He thought he was only responsible for covering Brooke's dress and a small portion of the wedding costs or honeymoon. But during our conversation, he brought up something surprising. My parents had been setting up $25,000 accounts for each of us kids. The plan was that once we turned 19 and started post-secondary education, the money would be handed over to help with tuition or whatever we needed. I just turned 19, so my dad was about to sign my account over to me until this conversation derailed everything. That's when the real issue came to light. After Brooke got engaged, she had a heart-to-heart with my mom. She claimed she always felt like the forgotten child in the family. This isn't the first time she's used this line, and honestly, I believe my mom fell for it out of guilt. As a result of that guilt trip, my mom decided to dip into all of our accounts to fund Brooke's extravagant wedding. She figured it was only fair to make up for the perceived neglect Brooke always complained about. My reaction. Learning this made me feel completely betrayed. It's not just about the money, it's the principle of it all. My mom's willingness to sacrifice the financial stability of her other kids just to appease Brooke's endless demands is beyond unfair. I've always known favoritism existed in our family, but this takes it to a whole new level. For now, I'm trying to figure out my next steps. Aunt Karen has been a huge support, and I'm thinking of staying with her for a while. I've also decided to focus on protecting my future, starting with securing my own financial independence. For everyone asking about the financial situation, here's the full breakdown. My 2 older brothers are both in the military and currently living on base. Since the Canadian Army covers their education, housing, and other expenses, neither of them ever needed to use the $25,000 accounts my parents had set aside for each of us. That left $50,000 untouched. Now, add my sister Brooke's $25,000 and my own $25,000, and my mom essentially had $100,000 at her disposal. Her reasoning was that because I had already saved $17,000 for college, she could just give me $15,000 later for a car, house, or maybe even my own wedding someday. The whole situation feels like a slap in the face, but this isn't exactly new behavior for Brooke. She's been manipulating people for as long as I can remember. Brooke's manipulation tactics. First off, huge thanks to the Redditors who pointed me to communities about dealing with narcissism and shared resources. They've helped me see Brooke for who she really is, a master manipulator. She even weaponized my mom's health struggles to get her way. When I was born, my mom suffered from severe postpartum depression, PPD. It got so bad that she needed to stay in a treatment facility for 4 months, leaving my dad to handle everything at home. My 2 older brothers, who were 9 and 7 at the time, were already a handful, so a live-in nanny was brought in to take care of me. My sister Brooke, who was only 5, got the short end of the stick. The nanny handled her basic needs, food, baths, clothes, but she wasn't a substitute for a mom. When my mom returned, Brooke was furious, but not at mom. Her grudge was aimed squarely at me, the baby who stole her mother away. It's dark to admit, but when I was just a few months old, she actually tried to smother me with a pillow. My mom caught her in time, and for years, that story was told as a dark family joke. Looking back, it's horrifying, not funny. As Brooke grew up, her manipulation became more sophisticated. She guilt-tripped my mom constantly, saying things like, "You always give me less than the others," or throwing tantrums to get what she wanted. By her teenage years, it wasn't about toys or treats anymore. It was about lavish trips, expensive gifts, and, now, an over-the-top wedding. Update: family meeting. After Brooke moved in with her fiancé Ryan, I finally got my parents to sit down for a real conversation. My mom was feeling better that day, so I took the opportunity to lay everything out: how unfair this situation was, how it was affecting me financially, and how I felt completely overlooked. My dad? He lost it. Turns out he didn't know about the full $100,000 wedding budget or most of the ridiculous demands Brooke had made. He was furious with my mom for saying, "Your father and I agreed," when they clearly hadn't. I even showed him screenshots from our family group chat to prove it. We worked through a lot that night. My dad agreed to sign over my $25,000 immediately, so I wouldn't have to worry about Brooke's wedding draining it any further. As for the wedding itself, I don't have to attend. That alone feels like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. After that, my parents sent me to my room so they could talk privately. When they were done, my dad asked why I hadn't come to them sooner with all of this. That's when I decided to show him this Reddit post and the comments. Confronting Brooke. My dad's reaction was immediate. He called Brooke and told her to come over immediately because they needed to talk. She said she'd be there in 4 hours, claiming she was with Ryan and his parents. When my dad pressed her, she hung up on him and blocked his number. While my parents read through the post and the comments, I stayed in my room. Later, my mom came to talk to me. She opened up about the PPD she'd experienced when I was a baby, something I'd never known about before. It gave me some perspective, but it doesn't excuse everything that's happened since. I told my mom that Brooke needs therapy. Her grudge, manipulation, and abusive tendencies have gone unchecked for too long, and they've hurt everyone around her. My mom agreed to bring it up but admitted she can't force Brooke to go. That's when I made my stance clear: if Brooke refuses therapy, I'm going no contact with her. And honestly, I might need to limit contact with my mom, too, if she continues enabling Brooke. Moving forward. This whole situation has been draining, but at least I feel like I'm finally being heard. My dad is on my side, and I've set boundaries with my mom. As for Brooke, I'm done bending over backward for her. If she wants to live in her fantasy world, she can do it without me. The fallout. After the heated discussions, my dad assured me of 2 things. 1. I'd get my $25,000. 2. I didn't have to attend my sister Brooke's wedding if I didn't want to. Since Brooke is charging $150 per guest, she can fund her dream ski resort wedding that way. However, a surprising twist came when we learned that her fiancé Ryan's family isn't contributing anything to the wedding. Brooke concocted this entire $150 per guest scheme, claiming it was an Italian tradition. When we brought it up with Ryan's mother, who dropped Brooke off because she doesn't drive, she was stunned. Apparently, the only money tradition in their culture is the money dance, which is optional and far less extravagant. The showdown. When Brooke arrived, it took 5 hours instead of 4, and she was sweet as pie while her future mother-in-law was present. But the moment her MIL left, all hell broke loose. Brooke demanded to know why my dad had ruined her peaceful evening and insisted he drive her back. My dad stood his ground, refusing to budge, and told her to sit down. What followed was hours of yelling. Brooke tried every manipulation tactic in her arsenal, threatening to go low or no contact, LC/NC, denying my parents access to future grandchildren, and pressuring my mom to revert to the original $100,000 plan. My dad didn't back down, even pointing out that my mom isn't her punching bag and her postpartum depression, PPD, isn't to blame for Brooke's entitled behavior. He firmly told Brooke she needed therapy if she was this angry, which clearly struck a nerve. Clearing the air. Eventually, I was called downstairs to join the discussion. We went through everything, including Brooke's ridiculous keto book comment, where she tried to insult me by calling me lazy and fat. My dad stood up for me, and though Brooke cried, my mom asked my dad to soften his tone, which he did. By the end of the night, for the first time in years, I felt like part of the family instead of a punching bag. Brooke stormed out, taking an Uber back home, claiming she was being attacked. Moving forward. My parents decided that when my brothers come home for Christmas, we'll have a full family meeting to discuss how to heal and move forward, whether that means therapy or cutting ties with Brooke entirely. Regarding the wedding, the financial situation has changed significantly. Brooke will receive $15,000 from my parents, but $10,000 of that has already gone toward her dress. The remaining $5,000 is being held for something more tangible. Meanwhile, Ryan's parents have generously stepped in with $15,000, $10,000 for the wedding and $5,000 for the honeymoon. My situation. As for me, my dad and I went to the bank to cancel the student loan I'd taken out for my first year of university. Thankfully, the cancellation fee was small since the loan hadn't officially started, and my dad paid it himself. My parents have also agreed to cover my first year's tuition and housing costs, so none of that will come out of my budget. The full $25,000 will be transferred into a TFSA, tax-free savings account, for later in life. The aftermath. While my relationship with my mom is still a bit rocky, my dad and I are closer than ever. Brooke, on the other hand, hates me now. She blames me for ruining her relationship with Ryan and his family and has banned me from her wedding and her life. Honestly? I don't care. I don't see it as losing a sister, I see it as losing a bully. A promise to the future. I've made a promise to my mom and dad, and to myself, that I will never treat my younger sister the way Brooke treated me. She deserves a role model, someone who will guide and protect her, much like how my brothers and dad have protected me. I think I've covered everything important, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm incredibly grateful to this subreddit for teaching me about real family values, boundaries, and communication. You've shown me that I deserve better, and for that, I'll always be thankful. Addressing the past. A recurring point many of you raised was the pillow incident. Yes, Brooke tried to smother me when I was a baby, and yes, it's a big deal. Growing up, my parents ensured I was never left alone with her. Either they were in the room, or my eldest brother was tasked with watching over me. It wasn't until I was around 10 or 11 and Brooke and I had what I thought was a better relationship that the incident became a family joke. Brooke framed it as just a joke, and I believed her. But now, I see it for what it really was. She's hated me from day one, and that wasn't just a fleeting moment of jealousy. Therapy and manipulation. Brooke did attend therapy when she was younger, starting with monthly sessions with a doctor from about 4.5 to 6.5 years old. Unfortunately, she learned to tell the doctor exactly what they wanted to hear, and the sessions were discontinued. My mom wasn't satisfied with this and sought out the best child psychologist in Alberta for Brooke, who saw her from age 7 to 10. The therapist claimed they'd helped Brooke process her trauma and develop coping strategies. However, I now believe Brooke simply became a master manipulator, convincing everyone she was fine while continuing to harbor resentment and toxic behavior. Her fiancé's role. As for Brooke's fiancé, Ryan, he's aware of everything. I sent him a long text and voice message explaining her behavior, and we spoke on the phone for 2 hours. In hindsight, I think he might be complicit. His response was disturbingly nonchalant, almost like he expected this. Looking back, he displays some concerning traits of his own. Reflection on my parents. Many of you asked if my parents feel they failed Brooke. I think they're starting to realize their role in her behavior, though it's complicated. Brooke showed troubling signs even as a toddler, pushing, biting, and hurting others. My parents did what they could, but they were stretched thin. When my mom struggled with PPD and had to leave for treatment, my dad focused on my brothers, the nanny cared for me, and my aunt tried to fill the maternal role for Brooke. While they all stepped in, it's clear now that no one could replace my mom. Even after my mom returned, Brooke's behavior worsened. Therapy was their solution, but as I mentioned, Brooke manipulated her way through it. My parents genuinely believed they had done enough. Brooke's true nature. Brooke's manipulation extends beyond our family. She once stole Ryan from another girl she knew simply because she wanted him, disregarding the other girl's feelings entirely. This selfishness and lack of empathy seem to define her relationships. Based on what I've read and learned, her behavior aligns with traits often associated with borderline personality disorder, BPD. While therapists usually wait until someone is 18 to diagnose it, people with BPD are known to be master manipulators, capable of masking their true selves and deceiving even trained professionals. Moving forward. I know I'll be diving into a rabbit hole as I continue to process all of this, but I'm committed to doing the work. For now, I'm focusing on being a better sibling, healing my relationship with my parents, and protecting myself from Brooke's toxicity. Thank you all for your insights, advice, and support. You've truly changed my life. Cutting ties and moving forward. My sister refuses to see a doctor unless it's to prove she's right about something. This refusal extends to therapy, which would be crucial for her to address her untreated issues. Growing up, she wouldn't even let me have something as simple as a Lalaloopsy doll. She stole it and burned it. After much reflection, I've come to terms with the fact that going no contact, NC, is the healthiest option for dealing with someone like her. Therapy only works when you're honest and willing to change, and unfortunately, people with untreated BPD often aren't. I've started my own therapy sessions to work through my experiences and heal from the past. Update, 3 months later. Hey everyone! It's been a while, so I figured I'd provide an update. I apologize for the delay. I lost access to this account but recently managed to recover it. Family therapy, it's going really well. My 2 brothers were granted temporary leave from their overseas military assignments and came back to Canada to join our sessions. We're making great progress as a family, and it feels like we're finally getting back on track. My mom and I are closer than ever. It honestly feels like I have my best friend back. My sister, I don't have much contact with her. A friend who follows her on social media says she and her fiancé moved their wedding date up to November 26. They've also bought a house and, according to rumors, she's pregnant. She's completely cut off all contact with us, and her fiancé's family has been spreading negative comments about us. Despite this, my family is staying strong. Exciting news. Life in Ottawa. I've moved to Ottawa and love it here. I visit home once a month for in-person therapy, and I also have 3 virtual sessions monthly. New sister. My oldest brother is getting married, and I've gained an amazing new sister-in-law. She's incredibly kind, regularly checks in on me, and even sends Uber Eats orders when I'm feeling down, despite being provinces away. She asked me to be her maid of honor, which was such a sweet and meaningful gesture. I agreed, and by this time next year, I'll officially have a new sister. Relationship. I've started dating someone. My boyfriend is in the army, can't seem to get away from it, I guess, and he's incredibly supportive and loving. Our 1-month anniversary is in January, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Post-wedding update. Many of you asked about my sister's wedding, so here's what I've heard from family and friends who attended. The ceremony, nothing major happened, aside from the mother of the groom showing up in an off-white dress and a few guests bringing kids to a child-free wedding. The reception, this is where the drama unfolded. The groom's mother invited one of his ex-girlfriends, apparently hoping to cause issues. To his credit, the groom stood by my sister and told the ex to leave. Baby announcement. During the speeches, the groom revealed their pregnancy with a slideshow, ending with an ultrasound photo announcing baby, last name, due June 2023. While I feel a bit bad for my sister given the attempted sabotage, it seems they made it through the day and are now off on their honeymoon. Final thoughts. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. You've shown me what a healthy family dynamic looks like and given me the tools to build a better future. If you enjoyed reading my story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more. Wishing you all prosperous, healthy, and joyful lives. With love.